So all week long, Secretary of Homeland Security Alexander Mayorkas has been testifying before Congress. They're discussing the budget for the Department of Homeland Security. They're also discussing the state of the border between Mexico and the United States. And of course, now not only Republicans starting to knock Mayorkas, but some Democrats are also starting to knock him, as well as the potential surge of migrants is building up on the southern border. Democratic Representative Greg Stanton of Arizona told Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas during a House panel hearing, "It is clear to me that the federal government is not prepared, not even close." Now, the hearing is coming as the administration is facing increasing criticism from Republicans, from Democrats, from many people about their approach to ending Title 42. We've talked about it here a lot. Title 42 basically stopped anybody from applying for asylum at the southern border, and if they did, they had to be returned to their home country. It was a result of the pandemic, the idea being that we don't want to allow people to come into the United States who potentially could cause a larger pandemic of COVID. Mm-hmm. But it was quite hypocritical because airplanes were flying. People were coming in from Canada. People were flying in from Canada. People were coming in from all over the world at all various different times. Sometimes countries were banned, but for the most part, people were traveling in and out of the United States. And of course, now that the pandemic is supposedly more under control, and we have therapeutics, we have vaccines, we have robust testing, the fear of a COVID influx across the border is much less when weighed against the threat to people if they were to return to their homeland, or the threat of living in tent city on the Mexican border. So with all of that, President Biden said, you know what, we'll go to the old laws. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's making up new laws. Going back to the old laws pre-pandemic, where if you have a claim for asylum, you can go to the border, make a claim, be interviewed. If you pass a credible fear interview, you get to come into the United States, not have to live in a tent on a border, and wait for your hearing in the United States of America, like a human being. Right. Just like a human being. Now, Mayorkas has maintained, in response to all of the stuff that was thrown at him today from both Democrats and Republicans about opening up the border, he maintained in response that part of the planning, including bolstering capacity of non-profit organizations and coordinating with city, local, and state officials, he said the federal government will be prepared and our plan is comprehensive. Now, at the hearing, it got a little disgusting towards the end, Jonathan. A Republican lawmaker slammed the Biden administration's immigration policies, questioning of Mayorkas at times, leading almost to racial stereotyping who was coming across the border. Republican Representative Ken Buck, a Colorado Republican, he criticized Mayorkas for reversing Trump-era immigration policies and claimed Americans were frustrated with, quote, Spanish-speaking children in schools. They are, quote, frustrated with immigrants getting care in hospitals, and, quote, getting frustrated with wages that are being suppressed by the mass influx of laborers. Are you ashamed for what you have done to this country? And Mayorkas' response was, in response to what you have just said, it is so profoundly offensive on so many levels, in so many different regards, I won't even ask you for an apology. And quite frankly, you know, immigrants don't get care in hospitals unless they have medical insurance or unless it's an emergency. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody who wants people dying in the streets. Right. Okay. Spanish-speaking children do go to school. Also, children who speak many languages go to schools. They get taught English, and then they get brought into an English classroom. Right. It's been like that for decades and decades and decades. I don't know where the frustration level is there. And of course, wages being suppressed by mass influx of laborers. That's been debunked by economist after economist after economist. Just not true. Laborers are coming in to fill jobs that Americans just don't want. Working in farms, working in meat factories. We have a shortage of truckers. We can go on and on and on and on and on.
Right.
Any event, moving on, Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State. You mentioned it in the opening. She was laid to rest today. Albright died on March 23rd. So she has been almost a month now, a little over a month.
A little over.
Yeah, before they buried her. She died March 23rd at age 84 after a fight with cancer, leaving a legacy as a defender of democracy, human rights, and peace. More than 1,400 people, each wearing a face mask, at the request of the Albright family, were in attendance. President Biden eulogized Albright at the funeral at the Washington National Cathedral. He called her a force of nature who, through goodness, grace, humanity, and intellect, turned the tide of history. Biden, former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, described how Albright urged other women to interrupt, and how, despite her small stature, she wasn't afraid to stand up to America's biggest adversaries.
I love that.
Bill Clinton, who nominated Albright as the 64th Secretary of State shortly after his 1996 re-election, recalled in his last conversation with Albright 2 weeks before she died. He asked her how she was feeling, but she was more interested in talking about the future of the world in light of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. She said, the only thing that really matters is what kind of world we're going to leave to our grandchildren. Bill Clinton said he will never forget that conversation. As long as I live. She's on her deathbed. This is what she's saying to Bill Clinton. So rest in peace,
that shows
Madeleine
what type
Albright.
of woman she was.
Yeah. By the way, she was not born in the United States of America. She was, in fact...
From Czechoslovakia.
She was from Czechoslovakia. She was born in Prague in 1937, and she was born into a Jewish family. And in order to save their child, the story goes, they dropped her off at a Roman Catholic orphanage. She posed as a Roman Catholic, finally started growing up as a Roman Catholic because she posed as a Roman Catholic as a very young girl. So that's what she grew up learning, the religion she grew up learning. She ultimately converted to Roman Catholicism, but the parents who dropped her off at that orphanage, who hid this Jewish girl as a Roman Catholic, saved her life. And look at the life that she ended up living and doing. She ultimately was a Roman Catholic and converted and everything, but it's a very unique story. She ultimately immigrated to the United States of America. Three of her grandparents all died in the Holocaust. Right. So she is intimately familiar with genocide in Europe. So quite frankly, what goes around comes around. And although President Biden and some others are calling what is going on in the Ukraine genocide at the moment, there's certainly a lot of killing. It could be genocide. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. And this is Biden this week. I found this very interesting, Jonathan. President Biden used his clemency and pardon powers this week for the first time. And if you remember, Donald Trump, he used that pardon and clemency. He used it a lot.
Throwing it out like Snickers.
Now, do you know, by the way, the difference between a pardon and a clemency?
No.
Okay, so a pardon is after you did your sentence, and you're now out of jail, you were convicted, you're out of jail, you did your sentence, you did your time, you're now living your life, you ask for a pardon to have that erased off your record.
To have it erased.
A clemency is you are currently in jail.
Gotcha.
And you're asking to be released early. That's the difference. So when people say clemency, pardon, there is a difference.
But with clemency, it's not erased off your...
No, it's just you get it correct.
Okay.
Now, presumably he can do a clemency and then
And
do a pardon.
Could you do that?
You could, presumably.
Oh.
There's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, lucky
But
person.
there is a difference between the two.
Got you. Now I get it.
Now Biden gave clemency to 75 drug offenders and issued 3 pardons this week. First time he's used that power. He said in a statement that those receiving clemency had demonstrated their commitment to rehabilitation and are striving every day to give back and contribute to their communities. Now, all 75 people who received commutations were nonviolent drug offenders, many of whom were serving sentences on home confinement because of the threat of coronavirus pandemic. Almost a third of those who benefited from the clemency would have received a lesser sentence if they were charged today. So they were all charged under harsher drug penalty laws from decades earlier. Now, what a difference between Pumpkin and Biden.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the few people that Biden helped this week.
Okay.
All right. Abraham Bolden Sr., he was 86 years old, from Chicago. He was the first black Secret Service agent to serve on a presidential detail. In 1964, he faced a federal bribery charge that he attempted to sell a copy of a Secret Service file. Now, he said he was innocent. He maintains his innocence.
What?
He said that a key witness had lied at the prosecutor's request in the 1960s. He was denied a retrial. He was served in a massive amount of time in prison.
What?
He protected John F. Kennedy. That's how long ago this was. Now, and he says that he maintains his innocence, and he says he was targeted in retaliation for speaking out against racism.
How was he still in there?
He was still facing, he was not in prison anymore.
He wasn't? When did he get out then?
But this happened in the 1960s.
Okay.
Okay.
I was about to say.
Yeah. 60, 69. So he was probably one of the people who got a pardon.
Yeah.
Okay. Betty Jo
84
Bogans.
years old.
She was 51 years old, from Houston, Texas. She received a 7-year sentence after being convicted in 1998 of possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine.
Oh.
Now, at the time of her conviction, she was a single mother, no prior record, and she was basically an accomplice in a car with her boyfriend. She took responsibility. The boyfriend escaped justice. And in the decades since her release from prison, she has had no record. She has accepted responsibility. She has consistent employment, even while undergoing cancer treatment.
Oh, wow.
She got a pardon.
Okay.
All right, I'll give you one more.
Okay.
Dexter Jackson, 52, of Athens, Georgia. He was convicted in 2002 for using his pool hall to facilitate the trafficking of marijuana. Since his release, Jackson has converted his business into a cell phone repair service. He hires local high school students through a program that seeks to provide young adults with work experience. He says he made a mistake. He acknowledged that he did it. And the White House said Jackson has also worked to build and renovate homes in the community that lacks quality, affordable housing.
Nice.
He got a pardon. Let's compare that to the first few pardons that Donald Trump gave.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, Donald Trump gave one of his first pardons on August 25th, 2017, to Sheriff Joseph Arpaio.
Oh, gosh.
Who was in contempt of court. He is a racist sheriff out in Arizona who was accused of basically racism and contempt of court and an anti-immigrant bigot. Disgraced his next pardon. I just want to compare the first 3 pardons of...
Yeah, and the 3 that you had said.
Yeah, was disgraced former police commissioner Bernard Carrick. He was serving 48 months in jail for obstructing the administration of the Internal Revenue Service, basically filing false tax returns. And of course, on November 25th, 2020, He also pardoned disgraced former General Michael Flynn for lying about his contacts with Russia and perhaps even selling secrets to the Russians.
Very different.
All his cronies.
Exactly.
All his cronies.
That's sick.
Versus, I mean, we can go on. George Papadopoulos, disgraced former campaign aide, Trump pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Roger Stone, disgraced former campaign aide. He pardoned Jared Kushner's father, Charles, who was in jail for tax fraud. All people who really deserved. Paul Manafort. All people who deserved the pardon. And of course, yesterday, Russia and the United States, not of course, it's actually surprising. Russia and the United States carried out an unexpected prisoner exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the deal involved Trevor Reed, an American in prison for nearly 3 years. His story is that he went to go visit his girlfriend, and they went out to a party. He got drunk, and he and the girlfriend had a fight. Mm-hmm. They were yelling and screaming at each other. The girlfriend called the police. The police arrested him, and when they found out he was a former U.S. military, they held him in jail indefinitely over yelling.
That's so scary.
Yes, because he was yelling. I mean, obviously they were having some sort of argument, but there was no evidence ever that there was actually domestic assault or anything like that. At the other end, so it was a prisoner swap with him and a Russian by the name of Konstantin Yurishenko. He's a Russian pilot accused of drug trafficking, cocaine, and was serving...
That's actual crime.
Right, and was serving a 20-year federal sentence. The way they did it, it was like right out of a movie. I don't know if you saw how they did it. It was like literally out of a movie, like a Tom Cruise movie.
Where they like
they flew
in?
a plane. The Russians and the Americans flew a plane into a deserted airport, in Turkey. Mm-hmm. The planes pulled up next to each other, mm-hmm. and Trevor Reed walked out of one plane.
Wow.
The Russian Konstantin Yurishenko walked out of another plane. They both went into separate planes. Both planes took off, and they were back in their home countries.
I think they could have thrown in Brittany, the WNBA basketball player as well.
Brittany is still in prison.
They could have thrown her in there.
Yeah, she's looking at 10 years in jail.
That's insane.
And there's another American also that's getting press about being unlawfully detained in jail by the name of Paul Whelan. He's also a former Marine, and he was charged with espionage. The United States says that is absolutely not true. So there are two more Americans, at least, in Russian jails. The thing with doing the swipe mm-hmm. is that the more people see that the United States is willing to swipe prisoners, the more likely it is that Americans who go to countries that don't have robust justice systems like Russia mm-hmm. have potential of getting arrested on bogus charges mm-hmm. just so they can have a pawn to swap with somebody who's in an American jail. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And coronavirus, we haven't talked about it all week, Yo-Yo. It still exists. According to a new report released Tuesday, more than half of Americans show signs of a previous infection. Almost 60% of Americans now have had COVID.
Oof.
Yes. And more than 75% of children have had COVID. And that is a big jump from December, when less than 50% of Americans had COVID. And less than 45% of children had COVID. And it's all because of Omicron.
Right.
So thank you, Omicron. I guess the good news is that maybe we're reaching herd immunity. Mm-hmm. I hope.
I hope so too.
Yeah. And you should say thank God I don't live in Beijing.
Why? Because
out of a city of 20 million people, they tested everybody. They found 29 cases and locked everyone down.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. And 29 cases were detected in 24 hours.
Jeez.
They decided to lock everybody down.
Oh, they're not playing.
They're not playing there. So be happy you're in New York. All right, let's get to wacky news.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's go around the world. All right, in one of our most nauseating wacky world stories, Jonathan, in Iceland, a 12-year-old Big Mac from McDonald's is being displayed in a museum. And despite being made a long time ago, it looks like it's brand new.
That's disgusting. That's the nasty part.
Yes, the story of the burger starts in 2009 when, I can't pronounce his name, Hojuter Smarsasin. I don't even know if that's his name, but I got close. He bought himself a Big Mac on the last day that the last McDonald's was open in Iceland. He forgot to eat it. He left it in his garage, and while moving years later, he found the Big Mac meal.
Oh my gosh.
No mice got to it, no bugs got to it.
Is nasty.
It did not decompose. It looked exactly...
That's crazy.
It looked exactly the same as it did.
That's so bad.
Can you imagine if it looks exactly the same as it did years later, what it would be like in your stomach?
Yes.
Right? So... what he did, he decided he had an historical artifact from the country's last McDonald's, and he should bring it to a museum. And he did. It is now residing in the National Museum of Iceland. Now, ultimately, the museum feared it could not prevent the food from decomposing, so it moved it to the bus hostel in Reykjavik. I don't know why the bus hostel in Reykjavik would be able to not decompose, but that's where it is now. And after spending years on display there, guests can now see it at the Snotra House in southern Iceland, and an unlikely testament to fast food's enduring place in the world. McDonald's claims, I'll tell you McDonald's,
what
that you know what everyone's thinking.
Uh-huh.
All right? God knows what the hell they got in this burger and french fries.
What they say.
They claim that the burger and fries last this long. It's not a Big Mac deal. The company says the food hasn't decomposed because it's all about their cooking process. BS!
It
McDonald's.
is not real meat, y'all.
Okay? There's no cooking process. It's heat.
Yes.
Okay? What special cooking process do you have?
We're not buying it.
It's heat. It's heat. There's no special moisture in your fire and your oven. Come on.
We ain't buying it.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think it's not rotting because they have a lot of preservatives in there.
That's disgusting.
I mean, you ever eat 2 Big Macs? You're sick for days.
Man,
you are sick for days.
Could you imagine?
That's gross.
That's nasty.
Now, that's what I was saying before. I'm like, they're charging you $10 to go see this quarter pounder. You know what? Just have your friends in another country mail you a quarter pounder.
Right. We know that'll
Big Mac,
be immortal.
whatever it is.
Yeah, no.
That's gross. I'm sick now.
Yeah, I low-key feel a little nauseous.
Yeah, I'm a little nauseous now. I wish we had tea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for anybody who wants to get out of Dodge, there's a remote post office opening. They're looking for a postal worker in Antarctica.
Okay.
Yeah, the post office at Port Lockroy, also known as the Penguin Post Office.
What?
It's a popular tourist destination on Goodyear Island, just off the west side of the Antarctic Peninsula. It gets 18,000 visitors a year. It has a post office. They're looking for a postal worker.
Okay.
They're short on postal workers.
They can't use
Port
one of the
Lockroy,
penguins?
Antarctica.
I've used one of the penguins.
Now you can. It's a good gig because you get to go see a part of the world you don't get to see often.
Yeah.
Except it's on average 23 degrees below Fahrenheit. It can feel much colder with the wind chill.
Oh, hell no.
There's no cell service. There's no internet service.
Gosh.
And everybody on the staff, or maybe even in the town, shares one toilet. Nope, they share an outhouse. There is no toilet. There's no running water. There's no showers.
You're not selling this job description.
But if you need a job, they're really looking for somebody.
Oh, no wonder.
If you believe the world's coming to an end,
then go there.
Then go there.
Yeah. Would you do it for like a day? Just like, just to do a little like, did Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie have that show where they like did jobs for like a week or something?
Yeah, if they want to pay me millions of dollars to be on TV and do the Superyacht for a day,
right.
Sure.
I think that'd be kind of fun.
Other than that, maybe I'd be a tourist there for a day and look at the penguins. I always wanted to see the penguins.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid
But I don't know if I want to
penguins.
work in the postal service there.
Yeah.
And finally, an anonymous worker who spent 20 years on the superyacht industry has recounted eyebrow-raising tales of the Times of London in an article titled Confessions of a Superyacht Insider. Let's see what confessions they have.
Okay.
All right. According to an industry insider, one superyacht's crew dressed themselves in designer clothes that had been thrown away by its owner after he wore them just once. The worker said the owner couldn't understand the need for wardrobes in his master suite, stating, "I buy it, I wear it, I throw it away." They continued, it helped to explain why the crew aboard his yacht were all scrubbing decks dressed in Armani cashmere jumpers. But I have a question. How does the crew fit this guy's clothes? You buy that story? Because they would have to fit everyone on the crew would have to fit that same guy's clothes.
I don't
know if I buy that story.
I don't know.
I don't know if I buy that. The superyacht worker writing in the Times also detailed the story of a crew that prepared fresh lobster for their yacht's owner every day, regardless of whether he was on the yacht or not. They just didn't know when he was going to show up. And when he did show up, he demanded lobster.
Oh.
Sounds like somebody I know next to me.
Yes.
Every time Jonathan comes to the office, he says to me, "Where's my lobster?" And I said, "Sir, you are definitely working in the wrong place."
Yes, because guess what? I never get it.
We don't have lobster here at Bradshaw Live. He never gets it.
Yeah.
But every day you come to me about that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know my worth, y'all.
I said, you're working in the wrong place. And separately, a superyacht captain told The Guardian that employees aboard a wealthy Russian superyacht were forced to take lie detector tests to prove they'd kept confidential information a secret. The employees were also banned from taking photos or making drawings of this superyacht. Would you, to work on a superyacht, would you be willing to take a lie detector test?
No.
No. I'd say screw you.
Yes. No.
Russian oligarch.
Exactly.
Take your yacht and shove it up your tuchus.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.